there's no way that 13-year-old dog ducked down and squeezed under that gate. And he goes, I'm telling you, I brought the dog downstairs. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be looking for that. So he brings her down, closes the gate the other evening, and I'm upstairs, and all of a sudden I hear her up there. And I'm like, man, I wish he would have closed the gate. So I look, the gate is closed. Oh, yeah.
Actually attached to the scene. Now they can hear you.
And Pascal froze.
You can hear me?
But at least when you froze, it was a handsome picture of you. Hold on, I'm going to get my camera and take that picture.
I'll save that one.
Yeah, did you save it?
Yeah, definitely.
That was a good picture of you. It's so serious, and you're looking right in. We get to look right in your eyes. Oh, you clean up so well. You're so handsome. Look at that. Now I can make one of those Disney overlays of you. Okay, is it working now?
Yeah.
I'll send it to you privately. Okay, are we go now? Now we're actually the voices out there. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whatever it may be, wherever you may be, this is Captain Madlove coming at you live and in person from the captain's quarters with none other than Pascal Ruse. Today's chapter from the captain's log, Pascal Ruse will be answering the question for you when people tell you, in looking at your miniatures, like in CNC, and they say, oh, you need to increase your values, or oh, you need more contrast. What exactly do they mean? So he's going to break it down into fundamentals for you, and that's what we're actually going to be talking about today. Take it away, Pascal. Whichever way he is.
Thank you so much for that intro, Cap. For those who don't know me, maybe an introduction of me is
Yes.
my name is Pascal. I'm a Dutch teacher. I teach 7 to 9-year-olds in the daytime and in the teaching and hobbying a lot. I'm so in love with teaching that I teach English well. Everything that I teach, I have learned for myself. Not been to art school or somewhat.
Although I tried once, but I picked up a lot along the way. I've been doing this for 25 plus years, something like that. Been doing a couple of events like painting competitions here and there. Most notably, Skill Model Challenge, won some awards here and there. And now I am here trying to teach whatever I think I know. And that's the emphasis, what I think I know. So everything I am telling you guys is what I work with myself. It's what I have learned, what I have picked up and changed into something that I can use. And my idea is if I can use it, somebody else can use it as well, right? And so this is me telling what I use. That may come over as that I'll be using words or using theories that might be different if you would be talking to a real art school student or a high grade teacher in that department. But it's the way I use it. And since, well, I get a bit of success in that, it's probably somewhat right as well. So let's go with that, right? I'm gonna share my screen. I got a nice presentation, a PowerPoint presentation set up, which I will take through with you guys. Afterwards, if you want to, just give Captain a heads up, and I'll email you the PowerPoint sheets to you if you didn't manage to write everything down. So no problem there. And Cap, I'll invite you to ask any questions if you think there are some. Just interject, okay?
Oh, most definitely. I'd also like to interject to anybody who might be coming, any of our Patreons that might be coming later after work or after family events that you had today on this third Sunday, that you are welcome to put questions in the chat later, and Pascal will be able to come back in and address them for you. And the reason we're doing it that way is because, much like Pascal is saying, he is teaching you something that he has learned. One of the things that we both have discovered in teaching people is if you put a question in there and then he answers it, there may be somebody else that didn't want to pose that question and then they learn something too. So this way we are kind of expanding the learning experience from right now in this moment to as we move forward into the future, and even giving shy people a chance to kind of go in and browse through that. So as far as questions go for me, I definitely, there's a lot of confusion about that. I work with people regularly on the contrast and the values because some people tend to isolate. I think we'll just start with contrast. And they will isolate that into a box that supposedly means, you go into an electronic device and say you just slide a bar that says contrast. My walk indicates that is really not the only thing that contrast is. But there are people out there kind of teaching that. So you want to expand upon that, Pascal, that would be amazing.
I'll be overloading you with a lot of info in the coming, I think, 40, maybe 60 minutes. Afterwards, if you are inclined, so we did put out a message out there. If you want, you can work immediately with this information on a model that you already own. That's
Oh, yes.
done or nearly done. And I'll have an assignment for you at the end. And so you can work with that in the hour afterwards. And I'll still be here and try to give you some feedback on it while we're working, discussing it. So that will be the more interactive part, is the second part in that. Right? And if your camera is not properly set up to show the models, then making a picture and put it in the Discord is not a problem either, if I'm correct. Right?
Right.
Okay, I'll share my screen right now. Where is it? There. There we go. Let's see if that works. Can I get a thumbs up if everything's cool there? Yes. All right. So like Cap said, everybody has heard that question or that remark on some of your paints. You need to add more contrast. And it was the same with me as well. Okay. Am I paused?
No.
Working. It's working.
Okay. Okay. So early on, I've had this comment made to me over and over and over again, and I always said, "Yeah, sure, of course." And then at a certain point, I started to question, what do they mean actually? What does this mean? You need more contrast. I know a bit about contrast, but it's not clear what you are meaning. Are you talking about making more darkness and light differences in there, or are you talking about that my colors should be brighter? People even try to explain to me that it should be that I need to paint much cleaner, right? Have good even strokes and whatnot. And I started to think, is this something that I need to apply to the entire model, or are you just talking about a single part of it that I need to add contrast to? So, what actually are we talking about? And so, what my journey actually did is it got me to a dictionary. So, I started to look up what does contrast mean. The trouble is, contrast has a lot of meanings, but if we apply it to art, it's pretty singular actually. And so I applied somewhat of this definition to it. So a contrast is the difference between opposites and similarities. Well, that's broad, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can hardly use anything of that. So it's the difference between things that are the same and things that are complete opposites of each other. And when something has a high contrast, that means that there's a huge difference between those two elements. Right? Also, I'm using the word elements because we're still not describing what that is. And if you got a low contrast, that obviously means that the difference is pretty weak. It's almost the same. And if we apply this to art, then we use this to create balance and interesting models. And we also use it to make sure that the viewer is looking at what I want the viewer to look at. Because not everything is as important and interesting to look at, right? So I use the contrast to do that. Okay, but how does it work, right? What do I need to do? So Cap, I need you for this. I got a little experiment, and everybody else can work with me. Okay, I'm going to show you an image in a minute. I'm going to show you like a couple of seconds, and then I want you to tell me what you just saw. Right? It's not
Oop, let
no
me see.
no
Okay. Let me get good
no.
visual. There you go.
Right? Yeah, you got a visual.
Yep. Well, no,
If
not
you
yet.
are
Here it
trying-
comes. It'll
Sorry?
be there.
It's not there yet.
Nope. I see a white page right now.
Yeah, it's not. It only says how does it work, right?
Oh, yep. How does it
Yeah,
work? And I
okay,
see
so
and boards on the floor.
yeah, okay. So
Okay.
I'll show it in a second, for a couple of seconds, and then you tell me what you just saw. Right? Here goes. 3, 2, 1. There it goes. What did you see?
I
Nothing.
just saw what appeared to be to me a black dot on a white background.
Wow.
Agreed.
Everybody else got that? Yeah.
It
No,
might not have
I
been
just saw
black, though. It
black.
might not have been black. It could have been Payne's gray. I'm not positive. But
Well, I'm happy that you're describing the white background to it. So that's important. Most people would just say, "Okay, I see a black dot," right? And
Mhm.
the thing is, if you're just saying, "I see a black dot," you're completely missing the enormity of. Yeah, exactly. There's one who sees it now. Probably you didn't see it before, but I'll come to that. You completely miss the entire white background, which is also an element in this piece, but you're just focusing on the black dot. And why is that? Because that's it's the smallest element in there, and still that's the first thing you see. And this is what contrast does, right? And this is what we're trying to aim for in contrast, having your eye immediately look at that element. Now, what you probably wouldn't have noticed in 3 seconds, but one of the Valander there has noticed is the slightly grayed bar on the left hand. Can you
Oh
see
yeah.
it? And why
it's
did
not on my
and
screen.
not on your screen?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Well,
A,
if it's not on
a,
your
a green bar. There's no green bar.
and it is
Oh, there's a gray
just
bar. I'm sorry. I
it
thought you
is
said green. I apologize.
it's over here,
Yeah.
right
Yeah, I
on
see
this
it.
side, right?
I thought you said
And it's
green.
just slightly off from the white, and this is why there's low contrast there, so you hardly notice it, right? And this is how contrast works. Actually, there's no better way to explain how it works than this, right? If we put it into words, we can say if you place a small element next to or have it surrounded by a larger contrasting element, then the effect is high. Okay, I'll let it sink in. See if there are any questions so far. No questions? Okay. Um, yeah, I got some examples, just some nice pictures, obviously, to see how that is right there. So we see the red apple in between the greens. Why does it work? Because it's darker than the green apples. Not per se because it's red against green, but more because it's a darker color than the green color. And we see the red leaves against the blue. We see the highly saturated colors from the beetle against the desaturated colors of the background. So in all of these three, you see an element, a small element that's completely different from that what is touching it or is surrounding it. Obvious?
I ask a
No.
question while you're going.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, because it's posed to me and us, whereas I answered a particular way, I want to ask you: is it not also a fact and being missed sometimes that the fact that each one of these, in your instances, are also contrasting colors? It's not just the small thing with the big background, but also the colors that are in each one together are contrasting to one another.
It is. Yes. And most
Yes?
often there are multiple forms of contrast that enhance
Okay.
it. For instance, and I'll be talking about all those forms
Okay,
later
okay.
on in a minute. But like with the beetle, what helps there is that the beetle itself is painted really secure. How do you say it? Really detailed, as opposed to the background, which is just flopped up, right? So that's also a contrast that I'll be talking about in a minute.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Sorry.
Right? Okay. So if we want to apply it to our pieces, there are a couple of rules that I invented. These are I could have easily Googled contrast in art, and I actually have done so as well. And you will not find these rules. These rules are what I made up. Um, but these are four rules that I try to keep track of during my painting. So the first one is that I'll try to use as many forms as possible of contrast. Right, and there are many forms, and I'll try to use as many as I can, but I'll at least try to at least get 3 of them. And you'll be surprised how hard that is. All right. We'll see that later, and especially later after the presentation when you guys will be doing it on your own minis. The second one is I'll always try to envision myself, is what the contrast that I'm trying to create here, will it enhance the way the viewer is going to look? Is it going to help me tell my story? Or am I just making something funky somewhere, which is actually not enhancing the piece at all, right? And then I'll try to, oh, there's a big typo there. I'll try to apply it to 3 levels. I call them micro, meso, macro. Micro is where I'll zoom in on like the littlest detail, which could be like a fold in a piece of cloth or a single digit on a finger, things like that, or just a single shade in some element. If I go to meso level, then it's part of a greater whole. Like if that digit is part of a hand, so the hand will be that level, or the entire cloth will be that level, and the macro level is the entire piece. So these are 3 ways of trying to apply your contrast in. Um, so it's like little, middle, big, right? Micro is the smallest part.
Oh, little
Meso
middle
is
hole. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And the last one is, if everything is made interesting, then nothing is interesting.
Ah.
That's really important. I made that mistake many, many times, letting the bling and the pizzazz shine on every part of the model, and then you're looking at it and it's just too much, and then it's just nothing, right?
Yeah, visual overload.
Sorry?
Visual overload.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's rules of thumb to try to use, and we'll be using that later on. So now we come to the interesting part. There's a question.
Okay, just trying to make sure what I have that's push to talk.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, you see a lot of problems like that on the sculpts themselves, on a lot of the independent figures, where there's no low detail areas. Everything is covered in everything they could.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how you should be looking at a model, indeed. Do you want all the details and all the textures on the model already, or do you want to have the choice to get them in there via painting, right? Even then, you can have an abundance of information in details and still not make it the most interesting part of the model. If you, let's say this is a model with this is top of my head, so a model with his jacket open, his jacket full of files and whatnot, right? He's a salesman kind of thing. Still, I want the face to be the main focal point. This is going to be bright. It's going to be really high in contrast. This is going to be the eye drawer, and this is going to be darker, muted colors, whatever, right? That is what I want to achieve. Does that answer your question? Yep. Okay, cool. So we'll get into a lot of forms of contrast. There are many, many ways to create contrast. And remember that it's always a choice to use them, and that many forms are used in 2 ways. Like we saw with the apples, I can do one red apple amongst a lot of green apples. I can do it the other way around as well. One green apple in a lot of red apples, but the effect is going to be completely different. And that's just trying to experiment with it. What is more effective for what you want to achieve? Okay. So I got a lot of paintings from the old days, most notably a lot of Dutch artists, obviously, and going in with one of the most famous of them, Rembrandt. And we're going to be talking about brightness first. And this is probably the one answer that most people mean if you're being told you need more contrast, which is they're talking about making your dark and your light more dark or more light. And why does it work? You see this immediately, if you look at this and you've never seen this piece before, you'll be looking at two things here. Oh, where's my mouse? There we go. Is the guy in white on the front? So that's going to draw your eye, and then you're going to go to the little girl in the middle of the man. And just after that, then you'll start wandering around and see all the other things. But your eye is going to go to the light parts first. And this works because it's a small light part. It's like a white dot in a black canvas. Right? This is probably what people usually mean when they say you need more contrast. Push your shadows more to pure black and push your highlights more to bright whites. This will definitely work. Then we're going to go to the milkmaid. When we're talking about temperature, and people, you often hear them say, you've got to create contrast by warm and cold colors, right? This is what's happening here. So you see the girl is wearing a blue dress, and there's a blue cloth on the table. So this corner is primarily cold blue against a large area which is reds and yellows and beige and browns, which is on the warm side of the color wheel, right? So there's a little bit of blue, a lot of warm. So the blue is popping out here. What I especially like about this is that the arm is, for me, the first thing I'm looking at. Not only because it's pretty bleak, right? There's brightness in there, but it's also the arm is warm. It's a small element in the background of the blue cloth. And then, so that's the first thing I want to look at. And I think this is what the artist has tried to do. You're looking at the elbow first, and your eye will run down the hand. You'll see the milk, and immediately see what he's telling. Right? It's a milkmaid, and just after that, you'll go up to the face and the torso. Then you'll look at the rest. And I think that's the way the artist wanted to tell it. Yeah. Should I go on? Okay. Then we go to saturation, another Dutchie Van Gogh here. Probably everybody knows this one. The Starry Night. And what I like about this, we're talking about saturation. So are your colors pure? The more it's towards the prime colors, the more saturated it is, and the more you're going to mix in colors, the more desaturated you get. And it's not about the yellow moon versus the blue sky, because this blue up on top is very saturated and the moon itself is very saturated. But look at the area around the moon, which is a pale yellow. And so you got your contrast there. You got a saturated moon with a desaturated aura around it. And the same is with the wind. You got a saturated blue sky with a desaturated blue swirls around it to make it show. And this is the contrast of saturation. Do I need to take a stop for questions?
Just that
Nope.
Van Gogh also had a vision problem that actually contributed to his genius. He had problems. He only saw in mostly shades of yellow.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was a different one. The one that never uses black.
Yeah.
No, Van Gogh had.
No, I'm not talking about how Van Gogh sees the world, but I'm just looking at the picture. Okay.
Yeah, it affected his use of saturation.
Sorry? Yeah. Okay. Then we're gonna go to the finish of your work, and by finish, I'm talking about usually gloss and matte finish. And either you accomplish this by actually gloss varnishing or matte varnishing your model, and having both finishes next to each other, which works. You can also paint it as if it is more shiny or more matte, and you can see that in this painting. Which I've completely forgotten who painted this, but you see a big scene, a lot of people there, and if you're looking right, then all those clothes, or that piano, the background, the door, everything is a matte material. It's slightly shining. There's light bouncing off of it, but it's not shiny. Whereas the person in the portrait with the golden what do you call it?
Frame.
Yeah, the golden frame. The golden frame is obviously very shiny, right? Because of the NMM kind of way painting it. So that's a glossy element in a pretty matte environment. And for me, it draws my eye immediately, making sure that this person is included in the portrait here as well. Yeah. Then we go to probably my most favorite painting ever. And I still don't know why this is, but I've been watching this one for ages. But this is about definition, and a lot of people also call it a focal point. And this is where the area that you want focus on from the viewer is going to be painted with much more definition than the surrounding areas. And that's done in this painting, and I've got some close up for that. You can see that a face is pretty defined. Even if you're up close and personal with the painting, then you can see the glint in the eye, and everything is really like miniature detail painted. But the more you go to areas that are in the background or even on the edge of the canvas, you see that the strokes are getting wilder, or getting more rough, or less blended, and things like that. And you can see that definitely, well, in the clouds in the background, but also up here in the leaves. And that's because your eyes work like that as well. So the center of your eyes is more focused than what you see around it. And this is what they try to accomplish in painting as well. You can do this on your mini as well, and certain points that you think this needs the attention, you're going to paint it the best and the neatest and the brightest and the most defined that you can, and all the other stuff like shoes, put some color on it, and it's done, right? When we go to textures, and if you're looking at paintings to see about to learn about textures, you go to stills. We call it still lives. I don't know if you call it like that. Yeah. And what you see here is actually a single hard object. Well, actually a couple, because the glasses are there as well, but most notably the bottle there is a single hard object amongst pretty soft objects, so it's squishy, malleable almost, right? And how do you see that? Is because of the glint in it. So this highlight in there is hard. It's rough, right? It's instantaneous from dark to light. Whereas on the orange, it's a gradual incline of highlight, and cloth is much more soft, etc., etc. So creating a difference in texture really helps you create something different, right? Getting some focus, getting some contrast in there. Uh, look at miniatures that are wearing Scottish skirts or something like this. Let's say I'm a bust and I'm wearing a shirt with checkers on it, right? Split. Something like that is a texture as well. Getting something like this, but then have a face which is pretty clean, pretty nice, that's going to create a contrast as well. Then we got information. Sorry? Oh,
I just coughed, sorry.
okay. We've got information. This painting, you would think I would choose this for the brightness part, and that is also applicable here, of course. But if you look at the amount of information you're going to give in certain areas, that's going to help you create contrast. First of all, obviously, there's the part where you see the girl. There's a lot of information. You see her breast, you see her face, you see the feathers, the mandolin she's wearing, etc. She's handling, etc., etc. There's a lot of information here, opposed to a large source of hardly any information there. You can just see that it's two guys and that's it. So that works well. But once you're over this part and you're gonna start wandering around, my eye goes to this guy first. And why is that? Because, and this is the meso level that I try to explain, I'm seeing this head, which is just a small part of information, only the face, and a large part of no information. But I see the face, and it's just enough information for me to tell what it is, but it's drawing my eye towards here. And then I'm going to go to this finger, and that finger is going to point me back to the main scene. All right. So, and this is probably the one where I got the rule from: if everything is interesting, then nothing is interesting. If you put information on everything, it's going to get lost. Then we're going to go to
as a study
color
in OSL,
compositions.
too.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry. You could also use that picture as a study in OSL as well, because of the candle in the middle of the picture.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's every painting has so much elements in there, but I'm just highlighting one bit out of it. But indeed, you can do so much. There's temperature contrast in this one as well, right? So, what I've just been telling you are contrasts based on. Oh, what do you want to know, Kat? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been telling you a lot about elements of contrast that you can create with any color, with any paint. Well, temperature is mostly warm and cold, but there you go. But we need color, right? So most often we're also talking about color compositions. And this is just a snippet of color theory. While I'm not going to go into how colors mix with each other, and I'm not going to go too deep into hues and tints and whatnot, I'm going to talk about color compositions, the colors that you're going to choose for your entire piece, how they will hold up onto each other and create contrast with each other, right? So there's a couple of compositions that you can use, and I'm going to go through all of them. And again, everything is a choice. It doesn't mean you have to have everything. But choose well, right? So beginning, there's the achromatic, which is just actually grayscale, in short, right? There's a lot of talk you can do about it, but simply put, it's just grayscale. Even if you put just a little hint of color in there, you can still call it achromatic. But there you go. Then you got a monochromatic, which is you take one color, for instance, this green. Where's my mouse? There we go. You take this green, and with that green, you open up all variations of that green. So by adding black or whites to that green, you're going to create various tones, tints, hues, whatever, but still use only that color, right? That's monochromatic. It's pretty interesting to do a piece in monochromatic once in your life, just to try it out. But it's really difficult to get contrast with it, by the way. So then we get the contrasting, or most notably known as complementing color. So if you got your color circle, you pick a color and you take the color that's directly opposite from it. I got a couple of arrows up here. So what I do is I'll take red and I'll take green as my two complementary colors, and I can use them in my macro level as, okay, this part is going to be red and that part is going to be green, and I'm going to use it like that. But I can also use it in the tiniest level, like let's say in the shade. If I'm painting a red cloth, I can use green in its shades. And this is a really difficult thing to discuss quickly, so I'll not go too deep into that, but that's a way you can use it as well.
That's
Right?
my favorite part.
Sorry?
That's my favorite part.
There you go. Well, if we've got two different colors, we can go to a double complementary. That's where you take two different colors, like let's say this red and this purple, and then you find the opposites, which are actually the purple and the lime green and the red and the blue. And then you get a sort of a square or rectangle. and you got 4 colors to work with. So that's if you think 2 colors are too few, and you can work with 4 colors that are enhancing each other. Mostly this is used as these 2 colors work well with each other against these other 2 colors. But it's not per se necessary like that. If you think 4 colors is too much, you can also go to 3 colors, and this is the triad. The triad is a equal-sized triangle where you take 3 colors and evenly divide it, right? Taking your primaries is often that triangle, red, green, red, yellow, blue, and there you got a good combination of colors to work in your piece. This is actually in a lot of miniature painting the most used composition out there. Oh, by the way, I should note that it's not only those 3 colors, right? You can use other colors in there, but it's the main colors that you're using. Then we've got the harmonious colors. Harmonious colors will prove difficult to create contrast, though, but it is a composition that you can use, and that's 3 colors that are next to each other in the color circle. So they enhance each other because they're the same family of sorts. But if you want to enhance the contrast in it, you can also do harmonious colors with a contrast. So you got the 3 on one side, and then you take the middle one, you take the composite color, the contrasting color of it, and use that as to use it as a contrast way. All right? Are you on overload already, guys? No?
Yeah.
There are a lot more compositions, and there are definitely a lot more ways to create a contrast, but these are probably the most notable. I'll put them down on a list for you again here. So we've got the brightness, the temperature, saturation, finish, definition, texture, information, and then the color compositions out there. Like I said, there are many, many more. First of all, are there any questions about this? Because we're nearing the end of my presentation already. Or is it anything you want to know more about?
Without yelling.
Is it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'm having to not double feed. So going back to the painting by Van Gogh, Starry Night, I have a question. So I want to ask you, and coming from you, because I want to confirm that it doesn't mean that what I learned is wrong. What it means is let's discuss that option. So is it not true that also, and very much overlooked, I think frequently, not by you, but by people when they're looking at something to create this commentary and or a composition, values contrast, is that the direction of his stroke would also be considered contrast.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Okay. I wanted
And
to,
that
because I know. Yes.
yeah, you could share that under textures. As
Okay.
texture will right. If I do everything in a singular way, in a single stroke, single direction, that's gonna create a very different texture than when it suddenly swirls all around. So that's gonna create a different contrast with it.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
so
texture.
I wanted to bring that to the table because very many people also working with I don't mean that necessarily people are special, but I've worked with a lot of uh, challenged adolescents and children. And one of the things is sometimes something can become the all. So if you were to break this down and actually look at the length of the stroke and the type of the stroke, it kind of becomes consistent. You look at it. But then when you take it and you map it out going in all the different directions, that becomes a texture for somebody, which then creates contrast, which I don't know if everybody would think of it that way. Probably because we've looked at it a lot and studied it a lot, that then we might, but not everybody does. They might think that that same stroke is just the thing, but by changing it up on this, then we get like a whole another variation of And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also coming from then going to the lady, the one you really like, your favorite.
I think Valendar has a question.
Yeah.
Statement.
Let's do Cap first and then Valender.
Okay.
So having
Women first.
having been raised by a photographer and something that a lot of people may not have wrapped their mind around, first of all, I really love your explanation on this. Really helped me to have a little better verbiage, I think, in delivering something that I am often stressing to people about. You know, if you have a focal point and this is a very, very good example. Yes, you've got this great focal point. And then we decide to put very detailed bright red bows on her shoe. Okay, we are defeating our purpose. And in photography, and this could carry over for people, if every once in a while they were to take a 2D perspective and consider their depth of field. So as you were explaining this, I was hearing my father in my head, and I was like, you know what? Some people may not understand what we're saying, or as you go out and you start to create this either what we call rough stroke or more blended, or but the depth of field sometimes, because people are oftentimes new miniature painters, especially very used to looking at things in 2D. And this, I think, was absolutely stunning example of something that I've often struggled with what word I could use. And I realized as you were explaining this that depth of field was a really strong one that I thought a lot of people might understand. Absolutely great example. And I love the picture.
And I still don't know what it is that draws me to her, because I think I can take 12 other paintings just like it, and still this one draws me in. But yeah,
It's the
it's a lovely
dog.
painting.
It's the love of the
It's the
dog.
dog. It's probably, well, the dog is, and I couldn't get it in the picture, but the dog is another of those examples where you see his mouth. It's really defined painting, but when you end up to the tail, it's just a couple of strokes, and you can definitely see all the brush strokes in there. And this is what, yeah, is really stunning. I've done this on minis quite a lot, making sure that the things that are out there, like the backdrops, like your scenic base things that are in the background, just throw on some paint and make it good enough, because I just want you to focus on the model and not on that little twig that's in the background, right? So there. Velner, you got a question.
It was about Starry Night. Uh,
We'll go back.
and explicitly, it's that there's also shape language differences, because all of the swirls, the stars and the moon, the ground, they're all rounded, smooth, rolling shapes. But the black tower on the left is sharp, angular, straight lines with very little curve.
Very, very good observation. Really good. This is indeed a great contrast. Like you say, it's the darkness against the bright sky, actually, which is weird because you'd say the sky is dark. Also, the shape helps in compositioning the painting, and where to put the stars and where to put the moon and where to put which swirl. That's all composition, which is a different topic, which is not about contrasting, but it is something to adore about this painting indeed. Thank you for that. All right. I'll skip on forward if there are no more questions. I got an assignment for you guys, if you like to do it, right? So if you don't, then don't. But I'd love to, because like I said, I'm a teacher, and I find that just if I would stop here, it will be a presentation and it's a one-sided story. I'll get it to you, and if you take it the wrong way, or you're not doing it right, or you're throwing it away, you're not learning anything. And only if you produce something, I get to see it and I can comment on it. And that's the way to get a discussion and to see if you're enhancing in something. Oh, it's the wrong one. So the assignment is as follows. If you got a model in there that's in a far stage of finishing, but you're not afraid to get back into, first of all, check how many ways of contrast that we discussed here you have applied in your model. Most notably, a lot of the contrasts you will be having applied without your knowledge, right? Without thinking about it. But now I want you to be very observant of it. See, what did you use? And it's not so much did you use them correctly, but did you use them, right? Did you use dark and light? Did you use warm and cold? Did you use a color composition? Whatever. Then check one of those and think to yourself, can I maximize this effect? Can I enhance it to make it even a starker contrast, make it bigger, make it better, make it more applicable to draw the eye for a viewer? And then after that, and do that, right? Just go in there and try to repaint it. And then what other contrast that you did not use yet would you like to add to your model to make it more interesting? I'm going to leave this open like it is. I think that's best. So you still got the whole list of contrast there that you can use. And I'll leave the chat open. You can do that either in chat or just here in the voice chat and ask your questions. Ask me, oh, am I seeing this right? Or can you have a look at that? Just come back to me and I'll try to give some feedback on it. And we'll be able to do that for the next hour. Is that okay?
Oh, right now. Yay, painting.
Yeah, right now. And I'll just be here like, okay, till somebody calls for me. Right?
Oh, so you're gonna take a
So
break.
like we said in the beginning, if you can do it with your camera here, and you got a good camera and you got a good view, you can show it me here. But if that's not a thing, then just shoot a picture, put it in the Discord. I'll leave it up to you, Cap, in what place or even on Geek, and we'll have a look in that through there. I can hardly hear you, Geek. There we go.
The matchmaker.
And if you want to leave some feedback on my
who's the boss?
presentation, that would be much appreciated as well, of course. You're going, calendar? Okay. Thanks, mate. Oh, he's gone already. Wavy in there. Cool. Want to talk me through it, Wavy?
I don't know how much there's to talk through. It's something I printed up a while ago, and I just threw some paint on it. I haven't really planned any of it.
That's good. So you can be very conscious now of the contrasts that you see. So what contrast do you see?
Well, I've got the obvious contrast between the darker rock and the lighter dragony lizard thing. The warmth of the rock and the coolness of the lizard. And the mouth is a vastly different colour to everything else. Hopefully draws the eye.
Which one of those do you think is the most effective at the moment?
I think between the lizard and the rock is probably the most. I'd like it to be the mouth, which is why I'm going to bring some more colour in there, some more reds in there, and purples, just to make that the center of attention.
Why do you choose purples?
I like purples.
So how is what contrast are you using there?
It was just a pink, but I've got in with some, what is it? Burgundy wine. That's bringing some more of the blue into the pink, which I realise is now making it more close to the blue. So I think it needs to be more reds in there.
I'll bring up a color circle here. Don't mind the circles and the lines there, but find your color of your worm and the color of the mouth. Are they contrasting? If you've got a color circle yourself, then
I'd say they are. The mouth is the pinky red, and the colour of the worm is green, which is opposite.
It needs to be more to the red and the oranges.
Well, like I'm seeing it, but that may be the difference in camera views, right? And the tinting of the camera is that your worm, you can see my mouse, right, is somewhere in this color range here on down, and then the mouth is this kind of purple, but obviously with some whites in it, so you'll end up somewhere here. So this is not exactly opposite to each other. So what you want to do is either turn the worm much more towards green yellows and then get the reds in the mouth, or turn it more blue, but then you need to add orange in the mouth, which is a bit weird probably. But maybe you don't need to do that. You can keep those colors. Okay, choose not for a color composition as contrast, but you can choose for dark and light in here. So make that pink much brighter, add more whites in it, have some pink in there just to give it the hint of pink, but make the mouth around it, the blue parts in there, much darker. And that's going to pop it out.
Yep, sounds right.
Also, I think that if you want to enhance on the difference between the rock and the worm, make the rock much darker, make the worm much lighter. Especially where the back is dipping in and going back up, that part that dip, that's going to need a lot of near white highlights there. And you can actually do that near white highlights in any color. Don't be afraid to go there.
All right, thank you.
Cool. Go ahead. Have fun. Anyone else?
I'll have a go. No.
Let's see.
I can't. Love. Oh. Mine all over the desk. All right, so this was this is someone's cape like
Right.
this. Was one of my first attempts to do really palette, very large area, and I liked the way it came out, but I kind of want shadows dark, and yet I had to ask if I dare to go as low as black or a purple black complementary, or if it was developed enough. It is supposed to be sort of painterly animated.
Right. So your question is, should you make the shades much more dark?
Do you feel that the contrast is already heavy enough enough before getting something deep as whatever you would recommend in shadows? Does it need to be any deeper, or have I developed enough?
Okay, so hold the cape as if it's on the model and it's right in front of you.
Hold on, and I will.
It's on the model, even.
Yep, I will grab the model. He's very complimentary. Wait until you see this. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, you got color and non-color. That's a contrast.
Yeah, I know. I thought about it. I thought about actually doing him in black and white and leaving the cape a color. Okay, so this is how he will look. Well, if you're looking straight at him.
So what you're supposed to ask yourself right now first is, what's the first thing you see? If you look away, then look back, and what's the first thing you're looking at? Yeah,
This
exactly.
line, this whole
Turn the model around and do it again.
To me, this one. For some
All
folks,
right.
it might be this one. For
Yeah.
me, it's this one.
I would go for the lower one, because from my point of view, I see bright yellow against the dark red backdrop of the next fold underneath, right? So that's high contrast. That's sharp against each other. So that's contrasting much more because than the upper part, which is gradually going towards the other color. So there's less contrast. There is big difference between the two colors, but it's going gradually, so it's drawing less attention to your eye. Now you got to ask yourself, are those the points that you want the viewer to look at first? I cannot decide that for you.
Okay.
If going back to your question, did I make the shades dark enough, or should I go darker even on the back side? What I just pointed out to you, why I chose the lower part, I would say keep it like that because it's dark enough to make that point pop out, right? So
Okay.
you don't need to go darker even. Should you do it on the upper parts? No, I would leave it like that because it's logical to have darker shadows under on the lower part than on the upper parts. Yeah. But yeah, that's the back side, which is a hard piece, right? Because you're actually looking at the front mostly.
Right.
And then can you tilt it a bit so I can look into the cape? Yeah. I would even say, apart from the upper fold, right, where your focus is right now, the brightest part, I know the other end, the far end. Yeah, that part. Leave that as it is. But the further you go downwards, I would darken all the colors more because it's gonna create the less interest. You got that shiny bit, and then you want to go to the model, and you do not want to go through the entire cape to the model. You want to go directly to the model, and in the way that you just pointed out, right? Go along the top of the cape, yeah, like that. And so you need to make the rest of that cape really uninteresting. And I'm afraid that the yellow there would knock out a lot of interest from the model.
Oh, like left this high or this right here?
Those, yes, those
Okay.
underneath, those yellows, take them down, take them away.
So bring those
Maybe
more
even
down into the
completely
orange.
reds, all in the reds, maybe just no yellows anymore.
Okay. Okay.
That yellow dot is striking enough.
Okay. And then perhaps deepening the shadows, like just in these little folds right here. As so, the object is come from. The reason I knew the front versus the back is because the object is to be pulled. So here's going to be really the majority of what you're looking at. There'll be a spearhead up there. There's a spearhead up here, kind of up by in his other arm. So this, of course, will be amazing. And then his helmet. The complement of that actually will be that his face is hidden in shadows. His face is so, the way they modeled it, his face is like sunk back. You would barely even see that face. So it will be really dark in there, and you will be able to see all the highlights on the helmet and all of the OSL from what I'm going to make that fire. So it will be like that. And then this will have to just away. I actually thought about making him just black and white in order to really focus on
He's
the
cool.
frame
Looking
that
great.
it was created. Yeah.
Make sure that in order for me to find the face, the second most interesting thing, or actually the helmet, right? Because you cannot see the face, is make sure that that entire area is at least as bright as the yellow. Whether you do it in grayscale or in color, make it as in value as bright as the yellow.
Okay, so that we're
Going
pulled in the right.
downwards and then going darker downwards hard.
Okay.
Right?
And then, of course,
Leave it.
this arm would not have a lot of, like the buckles and all of that. You would do that depth field thing, with it, right? So where you pull that back
Yeah.
into shadows. Right. Okay.
You could, yep. You would definitely do some glinting on the metals, but you can leave all the colors somewhat near to each other, right? Yeah, no problem.
And then so this is a more of a display piece. And the second question I have is, this is that Warhammer painting thing. Now after this whole thing, and this has been bothering me because I want to be able to give to other people than a regular thing. Is that so? After our whole discussion, my mushrooms are the viewpoint. Like my mushrooms, there they are. Whoa! And I was like, that's what's been bothering me. I couldn't figure it out. So that highlight thing that you were just
Make a
discussing.
remark first.
What?
Okay, can I make a remark first
Oh,
before
yes,
you go
please.
ahead? Because we're now entering the field of wargaming
Yes.
models, right?
So what I want is visual on the table.
Right. Yeah, and so a lot of this. No, what I should say is what you just said, like the mushrooms are drawing attention.
Boom.
That is in gaming models not a problem. You the contrast of the thing about too much information is no information. That does apply less on gaming models than it would on more art pieces, right? So you can put a lot of emphasis on everything here.
I want to make sure I was on the right track. Maybe.
Although there is indeed a lot of visual information in this.
There is.
Right. So you got the squigs are multicolored in great ways, by the way, and then the base has multiple colors. So yeah, there's happening a lot.
So would you think if I maybe made like just plain dark brown mud over that so that their background is darker? And then you were talking about not being afraid of the white, and I'm thinking on the game piece what I want, like, see them on the table. So maybe bringing like highlights on the teeth up higher, maybe on the horn up higher, maybe even the orange a little more towards bright yellow.
Yes. Definitely, I would make that face and like always make that face really, really, really bright, and then going backwards towards the tail, just dampen it down, making it darker. So you can use your dark and light. You got a lot of bright colors in there, a lot of saturated colors in the squigs. So use desaturated colors on the base.
Okay.
It doesn't need, right? Not necessarily darker, but desaturated often does the trick. Like add a bit of gray through whatever color you're going to use, and that's also doing the trick. Your squigs seem shiny, not gloss shiny, but because of the no, not like that, but because of your intense highlights and the dark shades it has. Right? Even your orange is really darkly shaded, while on the top it's really bright, which is cool, but that makes it a more shiny material. So make the base a much more muted material.
Because
right?
they are copied off the type of tree frog, so the skin was kind of shiny.
Yeah,
okay.
Slick. All right.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
So you can work with those kind of things. And this is what I mean with try to make as many types of contrast in your painting. Usually people only do dark and light, or warm and cold, or complementary colors, and that's it. And they do not think enough about saturation, about the finishing, the definitions of it, etc.
May I have a turn?
Go ahead, Raven. That is a wonderful mini, by the way.
Thank you. I'm planning on painting her. I don't want to do any changes to her. I've got a thing where once I decide something is complete, I don't like to change it so that I can see my progression. However, I have her in a larger scale, and I'm going to be painting her again in a larger scale. Is there anything that you can recommend doing on the larger one?
Yeah. Oh wow, it's really tiny. I didn't I didn't see that. So you're gonna paint it completely different in the larger one, you say?
I was planning on kind of doing it the same, but I might go different.
All right. First of all, I like the back version because you definitely have those differences in colors. You got your warm and cold differences there, which you do not have so much on the front. So, in my view, this is a blue piece.
Yeah.
Right, being an asshole, right? So, this is a
That's
blue
why I
piece.
tried to throw in that orange on the belt.
Right. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. I'm trying to be a geek. That's why you use the orange. Yeah, that works. If you would, well, it's not bad. It's not
Really
wrong.
badly focused though.
It's not wrong. And I actually like the color choices what you do because what you are using as composition is the harmonious color with complementary color composition. So you got your blue, you got your blue purples, right? So that's on one side of the circle, and then you got your complementary orange, which is working really good. And it's a small element in a large area. What you could do is work in a bit more orange in the flesh, maybe. The light's a bit bright on your model, so I cannot see the flesh color properly. But use that orange as well in the flesh, right? Usually, most people use pinks in flesh tones, or rather go from oranges and browns, which make much more interesting colors, by the way. So that ties in with the belt then, and so you'll make it even more striking that you're doing that color composition. You can even use that orange in the leaves of the book, just slightly. You'll hardly see it, but you can just slightly use it a bit there, right? And one thing you could do, and this is what you also tried a bit on the backside, right? You made the cape, you made it a different color on the inside. And I don't know if you meant it for a cape to be purple on the inside and blue on the outside. But what you could do is like a sort of OSL. It's not true OSL, but an extra lighting from underneath in the blue clothing, where you use orange in the shades. The darker the shades get, the more bright orange you're going to use in there. And this it sounds a bit counter logical. I don't know how to say it, but it will add a sort of glow into the shades that's looking very natural because it's the contrasting color of it.
Yeah.
Don't make it pop, but make it gradually. And like I said, the more you're going to the darkest part of that shade, the more highlighted that orange is going to be. And the thing is, if you're holding the model just like that, like it's supposed to be, you'll just see that orange pop up on the edge of it, right? And only if you tilt the model out like that, then you're going to see that orange, which is going to look weird probably. But if you keep it like that, and then you can say, oh, yeah, that's logical.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pascal, I threw some pictures up in the chat.
All right. Let me go to the chat then. Oh, yeah, no problem. I'm gonna do that. Gotta stop sharing then. Oh no, change windows probably. Let's see. Is this the best way? Oh, I'll go like that.
Outstanding.
There. Is this working?
Perfect.
Lamunas?
Perfect.
No. Is this the right one?
Yep, that's me.
All right.
Oh, lemonade.
That's a cool model. I'll go to this one. Okay, talk me through it. What contrasts have you used?
So I've been using a bunch of Hajime Sorayama artwork as kind of the basis of what I've been doing, with the exaggerated highlighting and then the like shadows to break up the page.
You broke off a bit there.
I fixed it. Ow.
So I've been doing a bunch of like tough Hajime Sorayama type artwork where they have like the really highlight and then using the dark lines for shadow.
Mm-hmm. So there's light and brightness contrast. Yeah, you did more.
Yep, I've also got the orange there next to a cool color.
Yeah.
The green stripe there on the kimono to kind of break the colors apart.
Yes. So actually, you're using a double complementary, where the purple and green are the other complementary colors, and the purple, the orange, and the blue are complementary. So that's I don't know if you've chosen it on purpose like that, or it just felt right.
No, completely random.
Right. So it feels right, right?
Yep.
And so yeah, that's a good color choice. I would opt for you to make that purple a bit toned down, because every color you're using right now is highly saturated. Right, the blue is very bright. Not, I don't mean light in brightness, but it's strong blue. It's a strong orange. It's a strong green. It's a strong purple. So try to vary in that. Decide which one of those should be the most saturated and which one of those should be the least saturated. And probably the one that is most saturated, the most saturated color is going to draw the eye the first. At this point, I would be drawn to the orange part first, because that's the brightest and most popping. It's warm and it's bright, right?
Okay, so you think I should mute the orange down a bit?
No, if it's your intention that I look at that first, then don't keep it like that. It's a freaking beautiful orange, by the way. So I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be the Chimera orange.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. That's really gorgeous. Really well done. Maybe you'll keep it. It's not a problem to keep that, because it is a striking part. Maybe funk it up with a logo or some texture in there or something to make it interesting to look at, because the color alone is not interesting when there's that blue thing next to it, which has the hexagons and has the boobs and has the face in it and whatnot. This is much more interesting to look at than this, because there's much more information in here.
Okay, that
Right.
makes sense.
Okay. So what do you think you should add to it?
Not really sure yet.
This is a difficult question, right? I think you could try to use some texturing, because if you look at the model, this is clean. This is clean, even though there's the hexagons, but the armor itself is fluid, clean, nicely blended. The purple is nice. Everything is clean, right? You know what I mean? It's
Smooth.
smooth. There you go. There's one thing, is the hair. You're trying to add a bit of texture in there by doing the shades and the highlights and whatnot. But you can improve. You can enhance it by using really small lines that emulate the individual strands of hairs when you're doing the highlights and doing the shades. Just do that like what we saw in the painting from the Starry Night, but then in really fine lines, right? You
Yep,
understand
that
what I'm
makes sense.
saying? Okay. In that case, you're going to create a heavy textured hair amongst all that smooth surfaces, and that's going to be beautiful. You already can see it a bit happening there because it is already contrasting due to the darkness against the light of the armor. But I think you can enhance it on it, right? Other than that, it's a really cool model and really good painting. I love how you made that shade in the face here. What colors did you use? Is this greens and blues?
So use the shadow flash from Pro Krill and just mix it in just a little bit of blue.
Yeah, good. A good color for skin is also just add green to it, or you can even glaze a bit of green in here. It's a cool one, and that way you get a recognition from the green on the cloak again. Not that green, by the way. Right? Did I answer your question? Is that helpful?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, I'll go back. Are there more? Oh, sorry. There. Any more takers?
So, question: how would you could you use a bright contrast between two colors to actually focus in on something completely out of the color? So, what am I trying to say? Let's say, for example, I've got red hair, green shirt, but they're very bright. But what I want to do is I don't want people to focus on the red hair and the green shirt. What I want to do is focus on the darkness that's in the middle. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're gonna create a dark face, let's say.
Yeah. So if you're in that, how does that work?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, but it can still be done. So you're working with two different contrasts. So first, the light versus dark, right? So you want that dark face to pop up, and it's the same like the black dot in the white canvas. So you make the rest pretty bright, make that a dark scene. But the difficulty is that if it's a face, you want it to be articulated, right? So you want to see every detail. You want to see the eyes. You want to see the cheekbones. And if you make everything really dark, it won't show up, and there will be too little information for the face to be interesting. So you need information. What I would rather do. So this is actually a really difficult one. You want to have a bright red and a bright green, and then a dark face. What I would do is make the assumption of a bright red and a bright green, but have it dark actually. So what I mean is this: if I take the hair, I'm going to use a bright red. Let's say whatever red, right? A really bright one. I'm going to shade heavily back to black. And in so much that in a single element of that hair, only maybe 20% of it is showing that red, and the rest is really dark shades. But because that red is really striking in there, your eyes are going to say, oh, right, that's bright red hair, but it's really dark. Right? You do the same with the shirt. It's going to be bright green up here, but all the rest is really darkened quickly. Still in the shades of those greens, but dark really quickly. So actually, those parts are actually dark, but popping off as bright red and bright green. And then you can make the face, and you take that dark color, let's say it's a dark skin, like a Afro-American kind of skin, but you make it bright. You make it really light, so even the highlights will go up to near whites. Take normal Caucasian pinks for it even, and but those colors are going to be much more muted, much more desaturated, which is logical for that kind of skin, by the way. Some purples in there for the shades and whatnot. But because it's much brighter, it's going to come out much more, and you'll be seeing the all the information in the face, and it's going to be the first thing that's going to pop. So you got your dark and light, you got your saturation, desaturation, and you got probably a bit more information in here than in there. Does that make sense?
Kind of. So, I mean, I've just managed to get the camera working as best I can. So this is the back of the piece, and it's on purpose that I've gone for this kind of teal and this red. But this, what I'm trying to do is, if I can hold it still enough for long enough so you can see it, is stream the darkness of that skin against those two colors.
Yeah, you're actually a pretty good way on your way, we should say. I would rather make the shades in the red, especially where it's touching the head, right? Make it darker there, so that you got your darkness from the hair popping against the bright white on the forehead of the face. But what, and it's a blurry picture what I can see right now. Maybe take it away back towards the table edge. Put it down, or do something like that. There we go. Yeah, what you're doing in the face there, the brightness of it is actually pretty good. You might be able to work it up a notch brighter and still get the hint of a dark tone, which is using take your dark color, what is it, a purple brownish, and just add a bit more light gray to it. It's making it desaturated but also lighter, but it's still going to be the same tone. And in that way, you can brighten up that skin while conveying that it's a dark skin.
But that's is to try and turn the contrast rather than be the focal point, which it is, because if you look at it from the back, so it might very bad camera work here. If you look at it from the back, it's like, okay, she's got a greenish tealy cloak and red hair, but when you turn it over, what I'm trying to play with is, can I frame that around the skin and use that as like the frame of the actual piece itself. Probably not explaining it very well because I'm a physicist and not an artist, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I would do is probably bring up the highlights where it's touching that skin. So the skirt where it's touching the belly, make it more bright. The highlights there, make it really towards white. That it's then touching the shade of the belly first, so that, which is going to be dark. So that contrast is going to make them pop from each other. And something similar you will do with the boob armor she's got there. I don't know what colors you're going to make it, but make it a bright color, like a gold or something.
I was actually going to be really brave and try an NMM silver on it.
Yeah, brilliant. I would not go for silver, but that's my choice. I would go for the gold because you got your yellow in there, and then you got your blue, yellow, and red, which is a great triangle. So
okay,
that's a choice, right? So don't mind me.
Yeah, well, it would as well, because it would down the edge of the either side of the body. It would kind of close that frame.
Yeah. Yeah, you should work with your skin. You can definitely, even on the dark skin, you can bring it much more light in there. I'm thinking if I can show you something that I've tried. If it's collectible there. Hang on, because now we're getting interesting. Yeah. Now I got to use a different camera. I hope it's gonna work. Oh, let's keep it down there. Now you get to see that my working table is actually a freaking mess. Not pleated properly yet. Okay. I'm changing my camera. Hopefully it works, because it sometimes doesn't. Yeah, there we go. Thought so.
Oh, blue again, Pascal.
Yeah, it's blue. I know. Okay. I'll try to do some things. In the meantime, if there's anybody else with a question, go ahead, and I'll try to set up this, and I'll get back to you, Scooter.
Yeah, no worries. Pick on someone else.
Probably will work right now. Yeah, there we go. All right, bring in some light. All right, I hope you can see this. I cannot even see this.
Good, that's it.
All right. A lot of light. Let's bring her in. There we go. All right, so I tried to paint a really dark-skinned woman, right? And then, I mean, the deep African dark skins. But if you look closely, I've got that bright red as well. I don't have the green blue, but I've got the bright red. And yet, if you look at that skin, this highlight on her skin is the brightest is pure white. What is around it is Caucasian colored, and it's only in the shades and the way I shade it, and because the amount of shades, that's where you think it is dark skin. And because I'm pushing up this highlight against the darkest parts of the cloak, that's going to make it contrasting, and that's going to make the elements be detached from each other. And the same as here. I've got a line of shade on the boob before I go to the highlight on the bikini top, whatever. Does this make a bit more clear on painting dark skin? Scooter.
Yeah, sorry, I just disconnected for a second there, so
Yes.
my bad. Sorry, just repeat that last 30 seconds.
Okay, so if I'm wondering if showing you this is helping you understand how to paint dark skin. If you're looking at the sheer brightness of the highlights there, like I said, like this lag, the highlight on here is actually just Caucasian pink, somewhat.
Okay,
Still, you got the idea that it's dark skin color.
right. So
Only in shades.
yeah, so I mean, I've kind of gone a sort of Slaneshy type color with this. So I'm down, instead of a dark brown, I'm into a dark purple, a deep
No
purple,
problem.
yeah. But then I'm trying to bring that up rather than with whites, with reds. If that makes sense.
I would, and no, it does not make sense. What you should rather do is mix in white in that purple to get to this value, and then afterwards you might glaze in a little bit red here and there to make it warm again.
Right.
Not
Okay.
overall, but you do it like that, you'll still get the value of this brightness, and then get in the red.
Okay.
Because the hard thing about pure red, some red like this, it's you cannot highlight it unless you do it with pure white, or you would do pink, but then you lose the redness of it, right? So red is actually as bright as red can be, and then therefore one of the hardest things to highlight properly.
Okay, so that's okay. I can rework it anyway because it takes me about 20 attempts to get anything right anyway. So, so if I bring, it was the question, of course, was more about framing the piece, and it's kind of comparable to what you've done there with the gold armor being the lion and the red being the, the hair. At which point you're kind of framing the piece, which is the question I was trying to ask about using contrast, but drawing your eye into the middle of the contrast rather than the actual the pieces, the bits themselves, right?
Yeah. Remember what I said? I don't know if you were there for the entire presentation, but in the beginning I said the definition of contrast is having a small element touching or surrounding its opposite. And that's what what you're saying with framing is make the surrounding elements the opposite of what you want to do. The thing is, you always need to think about it. Can be done in two ways, in both ways, right? So you can do a dark skin with light around it, or you can do light skin with darkness around it. And which of the two is going to be much more effective or challenging, even? So it can be done. It's just a lot challenging. And that is it.
Oh well, I'm in no rush, and so I just take as long. I'll take as long as I need. Yeah? But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah. People would like to see more examples like this from me, where I'm using certain kinds of contrast. And tell me, right? Can you show me something with that kind of contrast? I'll try to pick out something. How you doing there, Cap? Still in there? So for everybody who joined later or still wants a reminder, afterwards I'll be sending this presentation, this PowerPoint presentation, over to Captain, and she can share it with you guys, and so you have all the information again afterwards still. Yeah, something like that. We're entering the last 15 minutes here. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to round it out, and I would definitely love to hear from you guys what you thought about the class and what else do you want to tell me about what you just did in the past hour. That's that for sure, and see where it got you to. What did you take from this? And yeah, what can I take from this, especially?
Yeah, I was just keeping quiet because I can hit you up on other platforms
Yeah,
if I need you.
no problem, Dave.
But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, just well, basically this ball. I'm trying to do it NMM. I don't have a choice because I'm using Chimera,
yeah.
but it's not working.
The NMM is
Tried
not
black.
working.
I'm using black, white, and which it was The phthalo blue with the red tone,
right?
but it just seems to be another mess.
Okay, so I'm not gonna go into the non-metallic metal. So
Yeah,
that's
that's why
that's
I'm gonna hit you up on Discord
yeah, a
later.
completely different thing. But and your picture is very blurry for me right now. So but I'll do what I know, what I saw earlier. What kind of contrasts have you used in your piece up to now?
Um,
Yeah, getting that.
I've got the like on the front, I've got the green cloak, I've got the red and the magentas in the mouth.
Yeah, so that's complementary color.
Yeah, trying to just to give it some kind of a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to work up some more highlights,
Your
darken some of the shadows.
see how difficult it can be to point out what contrast you're using
Yeah,
or how few you're actually using. You're using a little bit of darken of brightness, I should say, by
yeah,
having a fairly bright cloak against dark skin, right, which is
yeah.
a good thing. I would suggest you enhance that brightness
On here,
on the entire thing. Make even the shades a bit less big, so that the
okay,
entirety of the cloak is going to be much brighter.
yeah,
And then again, the mouth, right? You want to have the focal point there. Make that pop really, really hard by making it much, much brighter and much stronger in color.
okay.
All
That
right.
sounds good. Yeah, yeah. Because I kind of limited myself to how bright I can go because of the skin tone,
All right.
because it's a purple yellow mix.
Okay. Still, even in that, in whatever color people want to paint skin or whatever element, dare to go from near black to near white.
Yeah, I've added some white
Yeah.
into the color for highlights.
Yes.
Sort
When
of
you're
see
doing
it on my head.
faces, so here's a tip: when you're doing faces, and you know the spheres theory, right? If you got a sphere, light's hitting from top and darkness is below,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But when you're doing a face, make sure you're pulling your light up towards the nose, so to the front of the face, which is a bit
Okay.
awkward. It's not real, but it's gonna create more focus into the face and not on top of the head.
There. Does that
Make
help?
uh, yeah, in making it clear. So what you want to do is highlight the nose, make the colors of the skin in the nose and the cheeks and the eyebrows much brighter. And it's not necessarily highlighting it higher, but making the base tone that you're using there a lighter version than the base tone you're doing on, like, let's say, the chest.
Okay.
Get it?
Yes.
All right. In that way, you're going to pull up light towards the front of the face. You're going to have that spot color in the mouth. So the faces are going to be the first thing you're going to look at, and then you're going to enjoy the gorgeous blue gown he's wearing. And
Screen.
yeah, exactly. And then from there on, you'll just wander around the model as you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right. Which almost made
Thanks,
me.
Pascal.
You're welcome, dude. Which almost made me go into a spheres theory, which is if I had more time, I would go there. And it's not like I put it out there. So yeah, no, you're not. Guys, I'm gonna slightly wrap it up. You'll be you can go paint along much further if you like to. I'm going to leave that to Captain and Geek. But I'm going to wrap up the assignment here. For those who want to voice their selves, what did you take from this, and where did you take your model in the last hour?
It brightened it up a lot from what it was. Still got a long, long way to go.
Obviously, because we cannot do everything in an hour, but so you've learned to enhance your brightness contrasts. Am I saying
Yes.
it right? Cool.
Yes.
Good one. Who else? Nobody dares.
And I'm just trying to keep my line straight.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to say I've got some good confirmation about I was going in the right direction. I was thinking the right things.
Awesome. Good. Have you decided on adding more contrast to it?
Get them on push to talk. Yeah, I've slowly been adding contrast to it.
Cool.
The rock's gone darker, the scales have gone lighter. I've added more red to the mouth.
Cool. Good.
Yeah,
Good
I
on-
found. Am I hearable now? I'm
Yeah.
on my phone now. I found the idea of using orange on blue shadows very going to be using that.
Cool.
It's
Hope,
counterintuitive to me because
it
of
is.
using bright color in a shadow, but yeah, I will
Shall I
give it.
show you? Shall I show you an example?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. 1 second. Um,
Yeah, because using yellows or oranges and blues to make shadows and stuff, you're actually making a brown.
yeah. So make sure to not to use good paint and good oranges. So this is an example not of blue and orange, but other colors. But this will show you how to put your highlights in the shades, right? Here, hope this isn't blue again. Here we go. Okay, so this is Nancy from Neko Galaxy. I think it's one of the best pieces I've painted ever. What I want you to look at is her purple bathing suit, whatever, right? Can you see it?
It's gone black for me. I gotta reset.
Yeah, I can see it fine.
Yeah.
If you look closely, you can just barely see a hint of glimmer down here under her boob. When I turn it like
Yeah.
this, you can definitely see it.
Oh yeah.
Right? So you see that I go here from dark to brightest. Oh, if it's focusing, there we go. So where the shade should be darkest, that's where I make my highlight of the second color the brightest.
Yeah.
And if you turn it right the way around, you just should barely see that color appearing. So and how I do that is I have shaded in the original color first, make it really dark already on this side, going there, and then take the second color and just paint it from here to there. Right? This is exactly the brush strokes I use. I put it here and I'm painting there. Do you see that?
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. And I'm not sure if I did that. You can see it there as well. There's the blue. There. That's how it works.
Nice.
There? Okay, cool. There we go. There we go. I would love to hear some feedback on you guys because this is actually the very first time I've done this presentation. Although the topic is new to me, but the presentation is, and especially doing this interactive thing online would be helpful to know from you guys what you think could be better or was really good.
No, I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. Something you could do is, if this is focusing particularly on miniature painting, is when you're showing the paintings, of examples of paintings, is then to throw a model, a model showing the same thing, so you
Right.
can see where it kind of crosses over.
That's a good one. Yes. I'll note it down. That's actually a good one.
You still on holidays? Oh, go ahead, Luke.
Is there already a skin tone video about?
I'd love to see things that are a little bit more off the wall, like synthwave and the more abstract colors and painting techniques, like painterly paintings of figures. I know there's a bust that I've always wanted to have a go at copying by Metalhead Minis of Frankenstein's monster, and you can see really big, bold brushstrokes on it. So, that, not the normal way of painting minis, but what's considered sometimes the wrong way of painting them.
Or at least a more artistic way of seeing things.
First
Yeah,
thing that
exactly.
comes to mind is rats.
Sorry?
The first thing that comes to mind is rats with his cyberpunk painting.
No, that's more a choice of color use.
Yeah.
And I think you're talking more about technique. Like different brush strokes and stuff. Right. Dadaism. I
Yeah,
thought
exactly.
you would say Dadaism, because that's the thing.
Elendar's left a long time ago.
Yeah, that was me. That's wavy. I think so. I can't remember. I think I've seen them all so far.
Portion done, but what it was that I wanted people to witness was that what they see on his Instagram, that is where it starts. It's insanity. And
I remember that.
Yeah, and he has several outcomes. He has one that looks a little more cartoonish, one that looks very synthwave. He has one that's very game table. So everything is not making sense, but it all kind of makes sense because it's on a game table. And then he has the things he does that are the painterly, more, you can kind of tell those are his passionate work. And he actually has the one that is the Marine stepping over the crack on that big bus with the Necron climbing up through the crack. but you might take a look. I mean, and he is more than welcome to come back. We can pick up where we left off, but he's a very, I don't want to use the word sloppy, but people kind of tend to put themselves right. They put themselves in a box, and I did that myself. So I understand once you've done that, then it's hard to come back out of it. And I want people that are starting and learning to realize that, you know, painterly and all over the place, it can come out the way you want it, and it can be a good thing.
Trick is to try to be bold and know that all painting you do is just paint on a specific location, and everything can be painted over. So don't be scared to make a mistake, because you can always rectify it. And if you can really embrace that, then you'll able to paint really loosely. And it takes a lot of experience to um, see where your brushstrokes is going to, even though you're just jabbing and stabbing it as you work. And just making rough sketches first, and then ekening it out to whatever you want it to. And that's taking guts. A lot of beginners will not be able to do it because they're all. This has to be like extremely precise and whatnot. But at a certain point, dare to let go and say, okay, I'm just going to throw some paint on and let's see what happens.
A big thing that I notice is when people are starting, they're trying to get their base coats perfect. Instead of layering it up, they're trying to do it in one coat.
Yeah. It has taken me a long time to get to that stage where you're saying, well, I'm just going to do a rough sketch first, and if I like it, then I'll start blending or whatever. I started actually to fully embrace it when I worked on Cassandra, the
Really drop it.
NMM model, where at a certain point I didn't start with dark gray and then a little bit lighter gray and a little bit light. No, I just put on black, and then I took near white and said, okay, here's going to be the highlight. It didn't look right, but the thing is, if you can look at it, squint through your eyelashes and say, well, at least I put it on the right spot. I put my light on the right spot, or I put my shade on the right spot. Then you can say, okay, now I'm going to do other stuff to it, so it's going to make a good whole.
Yeah, sketch things in and then fill in the details as you go.
Yeah, definitely.
I just want to butt in. I've got to go make dinner and stuff. Thank you, Pascal.
You're
Great.
welcome.
I'll go back and watch the beginning. If I
Awesome.
think of any other tips or anything, I'll give you a shout. And thank you very much for your advice.
Very
Brilliant.
much
Thank you.
appreciate it, and thank you for being here, dude.
Bye all.
Bye, Wavy. So,
And
I'd like to, I'm going to look for a couple of models, Pascal, that were painted early on by me. And if I can get back to my roots, I have a quite painterly, and it was a thing I didn't like about my work. I didn't like it. And
the sketching.
so the sketching was very frustrating, but also I had kind of a painterly feel to some of my work when I would do it, because I come from 2D big canvases where now you're going to make them look 3D and using oils and texture and all this really. And then at first I tried to put all of that on a miniature, and that really messed it up, too much goop. And then the second thing was getting myself out of, oh my gosh, I don't know where the wizard is, but getting myself out of that painterly expression. I don't even know how this happens to a person, but I guess it was Warhammer painting that did it to me. And then I pulled it all in and I tightened it all up and I blended everything and now I'm taking courses to kind of go the other direction with that and still get the values. And now I have to rediscover, as weird as it may seem, that painterly expression. I would never think, after all the years I spent, that was, a style that I had, that I would come to a place where I have to go back to my style. Like I did that to myself, So I know I have that.
Yeah, it's always good once in a while to go back to the beginning.
Sorry?
I find it every once in a while it's always good to go back to the beginning and rebuild.
Yeah. Well, you know, Banshee's movement of Fox Movements.
Mm-mm.
This is what he. It's not that he disliked blending, not at all. But he just said it's having a perfect blend is not always the best, or is not always what should be the focus of your painting. And to illustrate it, if I may, I'm going to show you a picture. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah. Regenerating. This is a picture from Arno Lazzaro. He was painting the Mandalorian, and he was painting the Mandalorian's helmet. We're seeing. I hope you can see this properly. And really nice.
Oh God.
I
So
don't know.
good.
Yeah, this I saved this on my own phone, so but I'll make sure to put it in the Discord later. So you're seeing a really beautiful glossy helmet, right? How wonderfully blended that must be. Agreed?
Well, I'm not going
It's
to answer because I know Joe,
Look at this. This is the
right?
close up. So you see
Yeah.
it's not blended at all. There's brush strokes, there's dots and stripes and whatnot. So it's not about the blending, it's about placement. It's about the correct placement on the correct place, the correct
and viewing
intensity,
distance.
and probably viewing distance. Yeah,
Then you got Dave Caldwell stuff, and it's
yeah. And then you got Dave Colwell. He doesn't blend. He's the pointillism guy who
yeah.
does
Oh,
complete skin only in painting dots, but doing that so perfectly that at a distance it looks completely smooth. But if you look up close, you can actually see all the individual dots in there. It's gorgeous. With that note, I'm going to sign off as well. I'm going to close it anyway from my end. I hope you guys have enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks for
absolutely.
your time, Pascal.
At least I did. I hope you'll have me back one day. I know Cap wants to, but it all depends on you guys as well. Again, leave me some feedback if you will, even more than I already got. And well, thank you so much for all the participation and all the questions, because that's how I know it was interesting at the very least.
And Pascal, if you
Thank
will,
you for your time.
I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. I definitely have learned a great deal about delivery. So this has really been helpful for me, which is what for me personally that was what part of it was. But also, I made a kind of gray and black background on my squigs, and it's really helped my swig problem. So that um, I know that everybody has gathered some good stuff from it, and what I would really appreciate too is if in the chat you would leave all of your information for everyone, all of the places we can find you, so they know where to go to tune in, because Pascal does stream, guys, and he has an Instagram. He's out there doing his thing. So I know that if you guys pop in and you need to go somewhere where you can get some really good input, which is my goal, is to try to give everybody more concise, clear input to demystify these things that have become so confusing for them. And that is my goal in the community. Because there's a lot of information out there. And I really appreciate Pascal putting together the little course and everything that you've done, helping us with the, the contest, all of it. You have been absolutely amazing. I'd like to thank Dave for introducing me.
Yeah. It was my pleasure, Cap. Absolutely.
Are you
And
back
thank
to
you.
work next week, Pascal?
No, I still got like 2 weeks a holiday left, something like
Hey, thank your family for us too.
that. Definitely. All right, guys.
Okay,
Thanks so
thank
much.
you.
Have a good evening.